I just want to say thank you for your time. Like there are literally like a billion podcasts popping up left and right, and they're all vying for your attention. So the fact that you're here listening to this is really humbling, and it's awesome. So I really appreciate it. And you can help others find it by rating the podcast. We have like 500 5-star ratings over at iTunes, but now we're available on Google Play and Stitcher, SoundCloud, Pandora, a couple other places. So if you listen to it from those platforms, then it really helps if you could rate it. So, I appreciate it if you take the time to do that. I'm going to get right in because we only have a half an hour or so with Guy. I've known about Guy for a while. I think probably heard about him, as part of the legends of Apple in the 80s and 90s. I remember learned a little bit more about it when Steve Jobs' biography, biography, I guess. And so Guy was the chief evangelist, whatever that is, of Apple in the 80s. He's from, he has an MBA from UCLA, BA from Stanford. He's got a doctorate from Babson, but I don't think he had to go to Babson to get it, so we'll learn about that. He's Hawaiian, grandson of Japanese immigrants. And we're going to have fun because Guy took up surfing at 62. I was just over in Kailua. I lived over in Kailua for a year when I was in the SEALs. And I was just, Guy, have you seen the kite surfing that's going on over there?
No, but I know about kite surfing. It looks too hard, but I heard
No.
I actually heard it's easier. I don't know how that could be.
Well, I talked to a guy over there. I'm 55, and this guy started at 55. He's now 59, and he's just crushing it.
Yeah.
He says it takes about 5 sessions to learn, and it's kind of like a combination of snowboarding and water skiing.
Huh.
Now, I grew up on water skis, but I failed miserably at snowboarding, so I got 50% going for me.
Well, but you only did 1 of 5 sessions, right?
I didn't do any yet. I just stood there marveling. There were about 40 kite surfers out. These guys were just ripping, and some of them, you catch a wave and they go flying up in the air like 100 feet. At least it looked like that to me. Anyways, I brought it up because you took up surfing at 62. Well, I'm going to take up kite surfing, and maybe we'll see each other on the waves.
Well, the thing that scares me about kite surfing is that it has all the variables of surfing, which is the ocean and other surfers and the reef and all that. Yeah, plus, you're adding true vertical issues, right? Like wind. I mean, wind is a factor in surfing, but not in the sense that it's going to pick you up and deposit you across the freeway. So,
for sure. There's a lot of scary elements in it.
Yeah, and then
I'm
with,
kind of a risk tolerant guy.
With surfing, you're more or less on the same plane, and you can run into each other, and boards can hit. But with kite surfing, you got this long rope that's extending, I don't know, 50, 60 feet in the air. So that's 50 or 60 feet you got to worry about, as opposed to 10 feet on a longboard. I don't know. It sounds scary to me.
Well, I know the thing that scares me is not me; it's everybody else out there.
Well, but just imagine everybody else is saying the same thing.
True that. So, Guy, let's give our listeners a little bit about you, your background. I know growing up grandson of Japanese immigrants in Hawaii. I love Hawaii. What an interesting place. And how did you get from there into tech, into being a tech entrepreneur? And I see a note here that your first job was actually in jewelry. So it makes perfect sense to me that you went from jewelry to Apple.
I'm glad you can make sense of it. It's more than I could say. So if I were to answer this question in one simple word, it would be nepotism. Because my college roommate, Mike Boych, got me the job in the Macintosh division. And you're right, my background was basically jewelry manufacturing, BA in psychology, MBA in marketing. So I was, not exactly a PhD with computer science from Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, or MIT.
Right.
You would have had to Photoshop my head onto an engineer's body.
Apple needs marketing people too.
Well,
right?
Not really. Or pay the HR person, $2 million to get me in. I mean, it's the USC plan. But anyway, I'm living proof that You can,
Anybody can
yeah,
do it,
well,
though.
that's a little strong, but uh, I am living proof that it, you need. Let me say this correctly. So most people and most companies focus on two things: work experience and educational background. I'm
Right.
living proof that there's a third factor, which is that you get it and you love it, meaning that you
Mm-hmm.
understand the product, you love the product, and you consider it good news. So you bring good news, to people,
Yeah.
which is the
I love that.
definition of
Yeah.
evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
So I could make the case that, with the perfect work experience and educational background, but if you don't think Macintosh is fantastic, you won't succeed anyway.
So were you exposed to the Mac before you went there? I mean, were you an early user, or was Mac even out yet? Give us a time
Yeah,
frame
so
there.
I joined Apple in the end of 1983, September of 83, and
Okay.
Macintosh was introduced in 1984, January. So
Wow.
previous to me joining Apple, I had seen Macintosh because there was another series of interviews for a job that I did not qualify for truly. And so I had seen Macintosh, I don't know, mid 1983, and I did not get that job. It's the second job that I interviewed for that I got.
What was Apple product line before the Mac? Refresh my memory.
It was the Apple II.
Nothing
It was
memorable.
Apple II
Oh,
and,
the Apple
dot
II.
matrix
That's right.
printers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you go to Apple from jewelry. I mean, there must have been a pretty steep learning curve for you.
Well,
What was
yeah.
that like the first year?
uh, well, here's another lesson. So, all these lessons are in this new book called Wise Guy that I wrote, and one
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
looking forward to talking
one
about
of the
that.
lessons is that, yes, I was in jewelry, so you would think, oh, what the hell does that have to do with tech? But my
Right.
job in tech in Macintosh was to enchant people, evangelize people, make them believe in Macintosh, and that's fundamentally sales and marketing. And so
Right.
I was in a sales and
Interesting.
marketing position in jewelry, you know, convincing people that our designs were better. Doesn't that sound familiar? So whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the design of a ring or a bracelet or a pendant or a design of a user interface, I
Mm-hmm.
had to evangelize design. And so I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot about sales and marketing in the jewelry business that immediately transferred to Macintosh evangelism, believe it or not, and really
Right.
lasted the rest of my life because I think that in life you're either making something or you're selling something. I mean, that's the two fundamental
I
processes,
agree with
right?
that.
Yeah.
And even if you don't think that you're doing that, you are, because you're either making some creative piece of work and then you're basically selling yourself,
Yeah, and
right? As
that's
part
all
of
it
the
comes
process,
down to. And if you can do
right?
either of those two things well, you're set.
Yeah. So did you give yourself the title chief evangelist? I mean, or were they actually hiring for that
Well, the
position?
first time they were literally hiring for software evangelists. So I
Okay. They
was,
use that term too,
yes,
huh?
yes, they invented
That's
that.
awesome.
Mike Murray and Mike Boych invented that term. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because, you know, my job was not to be third party software developer relations, whatever.
Yeah, right.
My
Blah
job
blah
was
blah,
much
right?
more fervor and zeal to convince people that Macintosh made people more creative and productive. So it was fervor and zeal as opposed to I've got to fill my quota.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, nobody else was doing that. I mean, I don't think Microsoft salespeople were
No,
evangelists back then.
no, I can promise you they weren't.
That's interesting. So, how long were you at Apple?
I was at Apple 83 to 87 and 95 to 97.
Okay, all right. And good relationship with Steve Jobs. Any
Well,
interesting
I can't
stories about Steve?
tell you I was in his innermost circle,
Right.
but he didn't fire me if that's what you're asking.
Yeah,
Which
that's a good thing,
yeah, well,
right?
that's a
He liked to fire people if they're
I count
non-performers, I
that as a
understand.
victory. I didn't get fired,
Yeah,
so
for sure. What was it like to see the company go, basically down the tubes and teeter on the edge of disaster when Jobs was fired, and then then obviously you came back, I think, when he was brought back, right?
Well,
Is that the time frame?
yeah. So I left in '87 to start a software company, and then I returned in '95. And when I returned in '95 was when Apple truly was supposed to die, and Michael Dell is telling Apple to give back the cash to shareholders and close the company because it's game
Wow.
over.
Right.
Steve had just sold next to Apple and was coming back. So we overlapped the second time very little. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Apple might not have been big enough for both of us, and clearly he was more valuable than I was. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, that's kind of the timing.
Interesting. So you started a software company. How did that go?
Uh,
And then
I mean, it was certainly didn't become Salesforce.com or anything like that.
right.
It still exists, and I
Mm-hmm.
started several software companies that were singles, not doubles,
Mm-hmm.
triples, or home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm kind of living proof, and this is another piece of wisdom that if you do one thing really right in your career, you can live off it for 30 or 40 years. So.
True that. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the, one of the things I love about what you're doing is you're a serial entrepreneur and you support entrepreneurs, right? You do a lot of, coaching and speaking and investing, I imagine, but also sharing your experiences through your writing. And so you wrote The Art of the Start and
Mhm,
Enchantment, and then, like you said, your new book, Wise Guy.
mhm.
Great title, by the way.
Thank you.
Lessons from Life. Um, let's talk about the art of the start, right? So, what does it take for an entrepreneur to get off his or her butt and get going in something that they're interested in or they see a need for?
Well, I think that the richest vein for a tech startup is that you build the product that you want to use.
Mm,
So
right,
Stephen Woz built the Apple One, you know.
right.
Mark Andreessen builds Netscape, and now this is completely contrary to what you would call classic marketing, because classic
Right.
marketing says you talk to potential customers, you look at the landscape, and you decide what people need.
Right.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying build what you want to use and just hope you're not the only nutcase in the world that wants to use it.
Right. Well, because what you're saying there ties to what you said before is you're going to be passionate about it. Like if it's something that you need to use or you can't do without,
Yeah.
then why not build it and then you'll have a lot more passion and energy around it than
Well,
just
I
making another widget.
seriously, if you look at the great tech companies, I swear that's the investment thesis that they built something that they want to use, and lo and behold, sometimes to their utter amazement,
Other
other
people
people
do
wanted
too.
it too.
Right. What's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur? Let's just say Mark gets off his butt and says, I'm going to build, this app that I really want to use. And I figure out how to go out and build the app. What's the hardest thing that I face in the next few years?
Everything is going to be hard. I mean,
Great answer.
literally, everything is going to be hard.
Everything.
Fundraising is going to be hard. Finishing your product is going to be hard. Getting customers to try a new product from a new company with insufficient funding is going to be hard. Getting people to
Mm-hmm.
join a company that they never heard of, that their parents are telling them you're crazy, there's not going to be anything that's easy. I don't know,
Nothing.
nothing.
True.
And I'm describing the best case. Um,
Right.
I don't want to paint a picture that entrepreneurship is impossible, but it's not like, oh, you fire up PowerPoint, you make a few calls, you do a few pitches, you raise the money, and next thing you
And
know,
then you step back and
yeah,
yeah.
you buy your ping pong table, and you
Right.
find a chef to cook lunch every day, and bada bing, bada bang. Your greatest issue is how do I scale fast enough?
Right.
I don't know in what fairy
Do you
tale this
see
happens.
do you coach or see entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who kind of have that mindset these days, or are most of them fairly clued in that this is going to be a long slog?
I think that the general attitude is it's going to be a long slog, lots of challenges, lots of difficulties, many pivots, disappointments,
Mm-hmm.
etc. for everybody else except us. Because,
Right.
we have
Yeah,
rock star
because
programmers.
mine's different
Right,
or I'm
right,
different.
right, right. We have rock star
Interesting.
programmers, and I know what I'm doing. And so
Yeah.
one of the wisdoms in Wise Guy is what I call the opposite test. And the opposite test is, imagine your competition. Are they saying things that are opposite from you? So
Huh.
one real world example is, you're pitching to venture capitalists, and you go in there and you say, I have patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, enterprise class, scalable product or service that's easy to use and bug free.
Right.
And you think, oh my God, I used every friggin' buzzword. I just
Yeah, you
described
did.
the
I
perfect
love that.
thing. And you know what? Nobody else is saying that. Well, the truth of the matter is the team that came in at 8, 9, 10, and 11, 1, 2, 3, and 4 all said the same thing. Guess what?
Right.
Nobody came in and said, I have a piece of crap that's buggy, hard to use. I don't know how we're going to scale. I don't know how we're going to get our first customers. I don't know how we're going to overcome Microsoft, Apple, Cisco, Yahoo, you know,
Right.
Facebook, and Google. Now, if everybody said that, and you come in and you say you have patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, bug free, easy to use, enterprise class, scalable product, you'd be saying something different. But everybody says the same thing.
That's awesome.
So the lesson is, rather than using all these adjectives that everybody uses, you should tell a story.
Right.
And the story should not be about patent pending, curve jumping, et cetera, et cetera. It should be about why you created this product.
Right.
And I'm chief evangelist of a company called Canva right now. And so,
Okay.
the pitch for Canva is that the co-founders were instructors in Western Australia, in Perth, and they were teaching other students how to use Adobe products, Illustrator and
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop. And they noticed how difficult and expensive those products were, and they
Mm-hmm.
thought there must be a better way, so they started Canva.
Mm. You know
Okay, I
what? I've
mean,
had that thought before myself, so I could
yeah,
see that right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So, that I think is a lot more effective than saying, well, there are, I don't know, 5 billion people on the internet. Imagine if just 1% of those 5 billion people had to create a graphic. Do you know how many graphics that is every day? And how hard could it be to capture 1% of all the graphics made?
Right.
Well, yeah.
That's not very inspiring. You say that entrepreneurship is a state of mind. What is that state of mind?
uh,
It-
what entrepreneurship being a state of mind means that you see the world full of possibilities, full of upside, that
Mhm.
the glass is half full, not half empty. Um, if you meet an entrepreneur, or you meet someone who says he or she is an entrepreneur and says that they're waiting for this time where it's a growing market with proprietary technology that only we have and can do, and there's no competition,
Mhm.
and venture capital is at its peak, that's
Hmm.
not an entrepreneur.
Right.
An entrepreneur, worst case, would say, yeah, nobody's funding companies. We have no idea what we're doing. We're not sure that our technology will work.
Yeah.
Even if it
Let's
does
go.
work, we're not sure that besides the two of us, anybody will use it, but we're going to try anyway.
Yeah.
That's the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah, and the entrepreneur is flexible and realistic enough to know that whatever idea you had to start with, it's probably not going to look like
Yeah.
that 2
Well,
years later.
you have to realize that to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a little delusional and masochistic.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have
I'm
to
an
be.
entrepreneur too, so I am definitely delusional.
But this doesn't mean that everybody who's a delusional masochist is an entrepreneur.
True
I'm
that,
sa-
right?
I'm saying every entrepreneur is delusional and masochistic. Not everybody who's delusional and masochistic is an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Um, I think I know where you're going to go with this because we're big on as a evangelist about telling stories. But how does one really mobilize people to join them by articulating their vision and sharing their goals and the mission? So most people, I think that's become really formulaic too. Vision, mission, goals, right? And people write it down and then they don't really do much with them after that. So what's your view on this? from an
So,
entrepreneurial perspective.
wait, let me ask that again.
Yeah, I kind of put a lot into that question. I think I even answered it while I was talking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vision, mission, and goals are somewhat formulaic, I think, for a business plan or an entrepreneur, for a pitch. But I think that you have a different take on it. How can an entrepreneur really get the story across best and share their vision and their mission and the goals that they're
Yeah.
seeking to achieve?
So I think 90% of this comes down to how well you can demo your product.
Okay, interesting.
Because just like every pitch goes with this patent pending curve jumping paradigm shifting, every time you're trying to recruit somebody, every person says we have patent pending curve jumping paradigm shifting, easily fundable, whatever product or service.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think you have to do is show your prototype and show, not tell, which is a huge difference because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you've ever been recruited by a company who says we have a piece of crap that just we're not sure it's going to work. So I think,
Microsoft did.
well, yeah, well, that's a good exception.
One exception to the rule.
So the thing is to not so much tell people what you're going to do, but to show them and let them fantasize by themselves. So to use Canva again as an example, the key to recruiting someone for Canva in the early days was showing them, okay, so let me show you Canva. We have dozens, now hundreds, but dozens of categories such as social media, book covers, presentations, posters, business cards. Within each of those design types, we have hundreds of templates.
Mm-hmm.
So you scroll through all these templates, you pick one that you like, you change the text, you add your photo, or you buy a stock photo from us, and within 5 minutes, you're done with the graphic. And so what you're trying to do is show people like, oh my God, anybody can design with Canva. And then a reasonably intelligent investor or prospective employee
Mm-hmm.
will be sitting there saying, huh, I just saw this person make a beautiful graphic in 5 minutes. I couldn't even boot Photoshop in 5 minutes. So let me just do a little quick mental math. I mean, there's a lot of people who need graphics. Canva can help a lot of people make graphics. I should go work for Canva.
Right.
You want them to sell themselves.
Right. That's pretty interesting. So if you're pre-product, you got to have a demo, at least be able to demonstrate
Well,
the
uh,
efficacy and the elegance of your idea.
yeah. So the wisdom in the book is that a demo is worth 1,000 slides,
Right.
basically.
I love that. So would you even, if you were pitching Canva today to a VC, would you even go into all the other stuff, all the finance, management, blah blah blah, or would you just show them the demo and talk, tell the story?
You mean two guys in a garage, or two gals in a garage, or a guy and a gal in a garage starting from scratch,
Right.
or taking today's Canva and going into a
No, I
VC who
meant
has
like
never heard of it?
an early, like an entrepreneur just starting out, like two guys in a garage or a guy and a girl in a garage trying to create
Uh,
something new and get funding.
I think that, well, I think that there should be 10 slides in a presentation,
Okay.
and that in the first 30 seconds you should explain what the hell you do as opposed to who the hell you are,
Mm-hmm.
because quite frankly nobody cares who the hell you are unless your product is exciting
Mm-hmm.
to care about who the hell you are. So in the first 30 seconds you explain who you are, and you may go in and describe the opportunity, how many people need graphics. It should be fairly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go in and you say, well, let me give you a quick demo. And so you're in slide roughly 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
You start the demo and you never get to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because they are so enthralled by the demo that they can do their own calculation about how big this will be. And they don't care if you don't have a world-class team, because if you needed a world-class team, almost by definition, you probably no. if you had a world-class team, almost by definition, you wouldn't be pitching them.
Right.
So, we're all faking it anyway. So I would rather have
Interesting.
people come in with a world-class product or service that I can do my own math and say, wow, this is fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
than to have a quote unquote world-class team of former Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook executives who have a piece of crap.
Right. What's the biggest mistake you think you've made, and you know what did you
Well,
learn from it?
more wisdom from the book. So I quit Apple twice. I turned Steve Jobs down for a third job offer.
Hmm.
I also declined to interview for the position, the first CEO of Yahoo. So
Huh.
that's four mistakes I made, and I figure, conservatively
Those are pretty
speaking,
big ones. Yeah.
that's yeah, $2 to $3 billion right there.
Good
So
God.
yeah. I mean, I would not be doing a podcast right now.
Well, you wouldn't have been able. You probably wouldn't have written the books either and shared all that
Absolutely, I
wisdom.
would not. I would be like Bill Gates. I mean, curing malaria or something. Yeah.
Well, you could have also been blamed for Yahoo mess. You don't know.
No, but I would have cashed out
Everything
by
happens
now.
for.
Don't you worry.
You say in your book, I've got some notes here from it. Entrepreneurs shouldn't be focused on making money, but on making meaning. I love that because too many people do go in with dollar bills in their eyes, and they forget that, like you said, it might be a single that you have to live with for a long time.
Yeah. I think that people who join startups or create startups, primarily to make money, I don't know. It just doesn't ring true. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not telling you that Steve Jobs was a philanthropist, okay? But
Hmm.
he at least he realized that to make money, you got to do something insanely great. Now,
Right.
if you just want to make money, go to New York and be an investment banker. I mean, let's
Right.
just, like if you rather watch Billions than Silicon Valley, then go be an investment banker. Go,
Right.
go be Axe Capital.
Right.
Um, but if you want to do something that dents the universe, as Steve says, and believe me, if you dent the universe, you will also make money.
For sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, the which came first
Right.
is the question.
Right. I mean, it seems to me, Guy, like we're heading into just an extraordinary time to be an entrepreneur. With all the confluence of technology coming together, and 7 billion people going to be connected soon in the internet. One of these companies will figure it out. I mean, what's your view of where entrepreneurship is going in the next 10 or 20 years?
Well, first of all, nobody knows what's going to happen in 10 or 20 years.
True that, right?
Nobody. I mean,
Yeah,
nobody knows what's going to happen in 10 or 20 months, much less years.
it's changing
But
so fast.
yeah, but and also in unpredictable ways.
Right.
So, 2 years ago you would have said Facebook is unstoppable. Well, it
Maybe
it
not.
still it still may be unstoppable, but it definitely has some challenges. And like, I don't know, Elizabeth Warren is talking about breaking it up and all. Whoever foresaw that, right?
Right.
And so, um, having said that, the trend is your friend in that the cost of starting up a company are much lower.
Right.
So, you're not buying $5,000 workstations anymore. You're not paying for $100,000 ads in the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
Uh, Everything is pretty much free, public domain, or cheap. Facebook allows you to really target your advertising. Uh, so I think the costs of starting a company are much lower. So that's all good news, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bad news is that one of the richest veins for entrepreneurship is immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at who started the great tech companies, it's not like they came over on the Mayflower 4 generations ago, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these are people who left Vietnam in the last helicopter outside off the U.S. embassy, and they moved from India, and all this kind of stuff. And it's hard to build the case that outside of the U.S., you're now looking at the U.S. and saying, that's where I want to get my education, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I want to put down my roots, and that's where I want to get my work visa, and that's where I want to cross the border. And
Interesting.
so I think
Right.
we're handing the next generation of tech entrepreneurship to Canada and China.
Right. No, I would agree, and it's going to be hard to reverse that
I don't,
dialogue. But
I honestly don't know if it will be that hard to reverse. I mean,
mm-hmm.
you could make the case if you stack the courts, there's going to be so much, anti-immigration that'll last beyond the president. Um, on the other hand, the optimist in me, and I'm very much an optimist, I think maybe, I hope, I pray the rest of the world will say, okay, so, the US really blew it, all right? But fundamentally, it's still the best game in town. Slide them a break. They screwed up.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I like that. And also, there is a lot of long tail kind of momentum with just the whole freedom of thought and mindset.
yeah,
That doesn't come to people who don't grow up in a free capitalistic or quasi capitalistic society like America. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Chinese are, there's a lot of entrepreneurship there from those who are in the coastal region, but even that, they've had to steal most of their stuff.
Well, I mean, with China, do you the intellectual property is different,
Mm-hmm.
funding is different,
Right.
ownership is. I mean, there's a lot of. Uh, I I don't think the U.S. is as attractive as it used to be to an immigrant,
Right.
but I don't think it's 99th in the world
No,
either
definitely
yet.
not.
Um,
Right.
yet.
So, your book, Wise Guy,
Yeah.
Lessons from Life, is there like like one like really powerful lesson that you think, you'd like to leave that we haven't talked about that you'd like to leave with a listener who wants to be an entrepreneur who's, thinking about going down this path or maybe making a change?
Yeah. Um, well, how about I offer a quick summary because there's no,
Yeah.
one simple answer, right?
Okay, that's fine.
So, some key points. Well, number one, my advice is you build the product that you want to use and just hope to hell you're not the only nutcase in the world that wants to use it.
Right.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is to remember that the purpose of a company is to create customers, not raise money. I
Mm-hmm.
think so many entrepreneurs, all they can think about is pitching. And
Mm-hmm.
they think, okay, so I'm going to pitch, I'm going to pitch, I'm going to plan, I'm going to forecast, I'm going to raise money, and then it's easy. Quite the
Mm-hmm.
contrary. When you raise money, that's when it gets hard.
Right.
So, so remember, it's all about creating customers.
Right.
Number three, the corollary about creating customers, guess what? You can't create a customer without a product. So
Right.
finish the freaking product for crying out loud. And
Don't get
and
distracted on all
yeah,
the other shiny things. Right?
yeah. And the fourth thing is that um, you know, always remember that I can't think of an example of a company that failed because it couldn't scale.
Interesting.
But many entrepreneurs they think, oh my God, with my patent pending curve jumping paradigm shifting rock star programmer co-founder, for the first time in the history of man and woman, we are going to ship on time a beautiful bug-free, fantastic product. So, oh my God, we have got to scale. We have to have co-location. We need customer support in place. We need
Mm-hmm.
all these policies and procedures. We need a room full of engineers and
Mm-hmm.
QA people and all that because we are going to be on time and great. Well,
Right.
guess what? You are going to be late, and the dogs will not even know that you exist, much less be eating your food.
Right.
And so they create an infrastructure that's geared towards the fantastic success that they expect, and it never goes that way. So the bottom line, my last piece of advice is always be thinking, eat what you kill,
Right.
as opposed to eat what you plan to kill, because you are not going to kill as much as you think you are, as
Right.
fast as you are.
Right. And every kill is going to be a lot of work.
Every
Right.
kill is going to be hand to hand combat, and
That's right.
it's just as likely you're going to die as that skill.
That's awesome.
And this is if it's going well.
Right, exactly. Awesome, Guy. Well, time's up here. I so appreciate your coming and joining us on the show here. Good luck with everything, and I'm looking forward to reading the book. So, Wise Guy, Lessons from Life. Go check it out. It's available now, right? It's in the marketplace.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. And I hope to see you in the surf over in Hawaii sometime.
If I drop in on you, I apologize in advance.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks again.
Take care
now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Ooh, yeah. All right, folks. Thanks so much for listening. That was Guy Kawasaki. Check out his book, Wise Guy, Lessons from Life. And again, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support of the Unbeatable Mind podcast. And train hard, stay focused, and have fun. Hoo-yah. Divine out. Hey, this is Mark Divine. Thanks very much for watching the Unbeatable Mind podcast on YouTube. You can also find the podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and unbeatablemind.com/podcast. Be sure to check out the new episode released every week. Hoo-yah.